Before claws, before roars, before the word dinosaur even existed, Earth was already ancient beyond our wildest imagination. If you could travel back in time, not just thousands or millions, but hundreds of millions of years, you'd find a planet that feels completely alien. Picture this. The ground is silent, no birds singing, no insects buzzing, no animals scurrying in the undergrowth. The air feels heavy, thick with strange gases, and the sky is painted in unfamiliar colors, sometimes a hazy orange, other times a pale violet. This is Earth long before the dinosaurs, a world in the middle of becoming the home we know. Life didn't start with monsters, it began with a whisper. Over 4 billion years ago, our planet was a violent, chaotic place. Volcanoes erupted, meteors crashed down like cosmic artillery, and the oceans boiled under a faint young sun. The air was a toxic mix of carbon dioxide and methane. Oxygen, the very air you're breathing now, was almost nowhere to be found. But somewhere in those dark chemical-rich oceans, a spark ignited. Tiny, single-celled organisms appeared. For hundreds of millions of years, these invisible pioneers were the sole rulers of Earth. They were microscopic, but they were about to change everything. Then, a miracle happened. Some of these microbes learned to eat sunlight. Through photosynthesis, they started releasing oxygen as a waste product. At first, this oxygen was a poison, turning the oceans rust red as it reacted with iron. But slowly, relentlessly, it filled the atmosphere. This great oxygenation event was a planetary revolution. The sky cleared. The chemistry of the world shifted, and the stage was set for new, more complex life. But this was no paradise. Earth swung between fire and ice. For long ages, the planet froze over almost completely, becoming a giant snowball drifting through space. Life clung on in the dark, cold depths, waiting. When the ice finally retreated, life exploded. Around 540 million years ago, in what we call the Cambrian explosion, the oceans became a laboratory for evolution. Creatures with shells, spines, and the very first eyes appeared in a dizzying array. There were razor-toothed predators like anomalocaries, armored trilobites crawling on the seabed, and strange swimmers that looked like living curtains. The seas were teeming with bizarre experimental life. Meanwhile, the land was still barren, just rock and wind. But change was coming. Simple green mats of plant life began to creep from the water onto the shore. They clung to damp surfaces, slowly breaking down rock and creating the first soils. This quiet invasion would transform the planet once again. As plants spread, they pumped even more oxygen into the atmosphere, making the air richer than it is today. And soon, animals followed them onto land. Not giants, but small arthropods, millipede-like creatures, and early scorpion-like hunters. This led to the Carboniferous period. Imagine vast swampy jungles of towering ferns and bizarre, tree-like plants. The air was so rich with oxygen that insects grew to enormous sizes. Dragonflies with wingspans as wide as your arms and millipedes as long as a car. This world was lush, humid, and alien. But paradise never lasts. The continents drifted together to form the supercontinent Pangaea. The vast inland areas became dry and harsh. The swamps vanished, and oxygen levels dropped. The age of giant insects was over. A new group was ready to take over. The reptiles, with their tough skin and waterproof eggs, they were perfectly suited for this new, unforgiving world. These weren't dinosaurs yet. Earth was ruled by strange reptilian dynasties. There were sail-backed predators, squat herbivores with tusks, and armored beasts that looked half mammal, half lizard. They were the dominant life on land, experimenting with new ways to survive. Then, catastrophe. About 252 million years ago, the greatest mass extinction in history struck, the Permian extinction. Massive volcanic eruptions in Siberia poisoned the air and acidified the oceans. Temperature soared. Nearly 90% of all species on Earth were wiped out. Life itself almost ended. The world that emerged from the ashes was quiet, empty, and wounded. But from that devastation, life began its slow recovery. Ecosystems rebuilt from the few survivors. And among the new creatures that arose in this fragile, recovering world were the very first ancestors of the dinosaurs. And that is where their story truly begins. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey through deep time, make sure to like and subscribe for more adventures into our planet's incredible past.